Oh, howdy. I'm the True Wise Gamer, giving off my vast knowledge so you may understand games a bit better. So, let's talk about World Seeker for a little bit. World Seeker at the time was a really big deal for One Piece fans, since it was going to be an open world game where you can explore the world with Luffy, defeat villains, and explore the island. And it bombed really hard. Honestly, it did not get a good press release at the time, still looking like an Unreal Engine world game, with One Piece characters placed in it, without ever really trying to make it look like one cohesive world that looks real. Or at least looks like a One Piece universe. Honestly, if there was one critique I couldn't give World Red, it at least looked like a One Piece universe. It had all the looks, the charm of it, at least it had that. And I will at least say the models are on point at least, so there's that. But you get my point. And it wasn't really helped when it was just revealed that you would solely be playing as Luffy. So it meant no Sanji, Usopp, Nami, Zoro. Well, actually you can play as Zoro, because that's DLC, which we'll talk about later. And while Luffy on its own can be fun, it lacks the appeal of just what the crew can provide. They are basically sidelined and any potential with them is very small. But at this point, I'm being a little too forward with what I'm talking about. It's better if we talked about it when it comes up, so let's dive into World Seeker. So the intro to the game is actually really spectacular and actually a cool concept that doesn't really happen that much. Essentially, the crew is planning a heist, with Luffy being captured and taken to the Sky Prison on Prison Island. More on that in a bit, as the crew is trying to figure out what the treasure is on the Sky Prison, while Luffy meets up with the villain of the game, Isaac, who's the warden and a cyborg who's coated in sea stone, which basically can weaken Luffy's powers if he's not careful. However, the heist was a bust as the treasure was actually a lie, but they were able to escape easily somehow, even though Isaac could easily follow them. Wonder why. However, Luffy fell into the ocean while escaping, when he is rescued by Jean. She's essentially the leader of an anti-Navy group that want the Marines to leave the island. Which I'm not sure why they are called the Navy. It's only an American thing and a 4-Kids thing at that, so I'm not sure why they're called them. But you know what, whatever. So why do they want them gone? So let's actually explain. So a long time ago, the island was called Jeweled Island, due to the minerals on the island. However, it also held a special type of mineral there too, called Dynastone. Oh boy. Let's talk about Dynastone, and the movie they're from. Yes, Dynastone. The same material from movie Z, or Zephyr, whichever one you want to call it. In fact, actually, fun fact, I was actually watching the movie while playing the game, so I didn't actually know about the connection until I watched it, which, by the way, the movie's really good, you should watch it. In any case, it's a stone that can rival the powers of the ancient weapons that could devastate a whole island. Yeah, they are that busted. This is where I wanted to talk about something I mentioned in my last video, where I would talk about something in there, but let's talk about it now. Let's talk about non-canon material. I know, weird name, but that's the best way to put it. Essentially, it is basically the idea of, you know those events in filler things that are just, not canon? However, but the materials behind them and the characters themselves are canon. For example, do you remember the G8 filler arc that is very much looked upon fondly because it was really well done? In fact, it was so well done that a lot of anime watchers thought it was canon, even though it wasn't. Which should just tell you that filler can be good if it's well written. In any case, while G8 is non-canon, it is revealed that G8's Commodore is canon through spotlights through the manga, where he's a tertiary character and not even there entirely. Like, if you know who you're looking for, you can see him. Or another big example, Strong World, which is not canon, but Shiki is canon along with his crew. My point is that it can help and expand the world that we are in a very interesting way. However, you can have issues like with Film Red, where an important plot crucial point was revealed very early on that changed how we view Shanks forever, which most of the manga readers wouldn't even know or even care why this is important. My point is that it has its pros and cons, and that its inclusion here, for the most part, is a pro because it does something more with it and builds upon it. Back on track. So basically, before the events of the game, pirates learned of the island and the Dynastones, and basically killed John and Isaac's mother. Yes, John and Isaac are siblings. And well, after the death, the Marines came in and basically made the island more into a prison state, where basically they're just mostly in charge, and the island is mostly used as, well, a storage unit for prisoners. And while it did curb the problems with the pirates, it basically messed up the economy of the island, causing people to become poorer if they were against the Marines, and those who were for them basically got a lot more power. Yeah, they were doing some economical political commentary here or something. Well, sort of. I'll explain later, cause it's better to deal with it when somebody else comes in, and we could tie it in all together there. While we're trying to figure out what the hell is going on the island, we are also tasked with finding the crew members on the island. And this is where the main mechanic of exploration comes in. So as stated at the beginning, it was an open world game that focuses on Luffy's abilities to get around. And sadly, it's no Spider-Man. Which is weird in some regard, because Luffy at the beginning of the game, or you know, that cool intro at the beginning with that cool OST in the background, which, by the way, I didn't mention this earlier. I don't know why I keep forgetting to talk about the OST. The OST for the game is actually pretty good. It was actually done by the same person who did the OST for the main show, which is really well done. In any case, sorry for the sidetracking. Essentially, it's not like that, sadly. It's more like you're rappelling yourself around. Though for some strange reason, after a bit of doing that after being launched, you just stop for some reason. Like, what? Why? And for some strange reason, there's an ability in the game where you can actually prolong yourself in the air a bit longer for some reason. Like, why? We'll talk about the upgrade system in a moment. But my point is, why? And I mean, like, this is the main way of how you're going to actually get around the island. And I mean, like, yeah, sure, Karu's there, and if you're wondering why he's there, it's DLC, don't worry about it. You'll only have to worry about him if you're trying to speedrun, and even then, not really. And really, the only reason why you want to rocket around is because of the exploration and finding materials. You use these materials so you can make items or lunch or do side quests with them. The lunches are for finding more materials with the crew members, but I never bothered with it because for the most part, accessories are just there to give stat bonuses. Which, let's actually talk about the RPG stuff for a moment, but that also requires we need to talk about the combat as well. Like, I am very much shocked of how just awful it is. Like, it's that kind of dull that I just don't get who would ever design it this way. I dare say, even World Red was better. So let's actually examine why that is. So essentially, combat is basically one button. Well, sorta. Essentially, Luffy has two modes. The fast but weak one, and the heavy one that's slower but hits a lot harder. And there's honestly never a reason why you should leave Armament Hockey mode because it deals way more damage overall. Though, that implies you're actually going through the combat normally, when really, you'll barely attack normally ever. Because full honesty, the gameplay should have just been called, or at least the game as a whole, Gum Gum Pistol Whip. Let's actually talk about it. Luffy's iconic move is, well, Gum Gum Pistol. Essentially, it allows him to attack at a range, and other such things. And in this game, he can do it a lot. And I mean a lot. In fact, damage-wise, you will always be better off using pistol, because the damage you could deal at such a rate that normal attacking is just there when you ran out of stamina to use your pistol. And that kind of leaves combat at a dead end, because that means there's nothing really to improve other than just the ability to use pistol more and more, which let's actually talk about the upgrade system for a moment. As Luffy does side quests or combat, he gains XP and essentially points to allow him to upgrade himself. However, for the most part, most of these upgrades are useless because they're all situational and don't really need to be used. I mean, after I realized that pistol was super powerful, all the upgrades became pointless and I just put points into it just because I might as well. Though then again, some of these upgrades are just pointless to begin with. For example, opening a chest faster. I'm sorry, what? That is one of the dumbest upgrades I have ever heard because there's no point. Just open the goddamn chest. And you might be saying, well, what about the exploration abilities? Well, except for that chest thing, you might actually not want to explore all that much. Because you see, sometimes enemies are all around the map, so that means they can actually intervene while you're trying to do your exploration. And that's mostly because of sniper enemies who have C-Prism guns, which are a thing in the universe because of Z. However, the problem is, it just made exploration even more worthless because I don't want to be stopped. I want to just get the thing and get out. Which just meant a good chunk of the map was just pointless to me because I didn't want to be bothered with the combat. Meaning for the most part, I was just going to plot point without doing any of the side quests. Which, full honesty, don't even bother, most of them are worthless and we will talk about a few in a moment. Just note that's only because of other things tied to them, not because they're actually interesting. In any case, let's get back to the plot and, well, more gameplay. It's a little complicated. So after finding mostly everyone and trying to find Robin, we find Zoro and Isaac fighting. We aren't particularly sure how this happened. In fact, Isaac has been making it a point to make sure that they're able to just do whatever they want. Isaac then tries to leave, but before he does, he actually sends out some robots, which are the most annoying enemies to fight because once they're in the air and if they fall to the ground, they get invisibility frames, making everything just take little too long for my liking. In any case, Zoro decides to go after Isaac because he's bored. He just really wants to fight someone. No, that's the legit reason, and honestly, I buy that. Though he leaves the care of the crew to Luffy, which is just a terrible idea in general, but another time. Let's actually talk about the DLC for a moment. Essentially, the game got 3 major DLC, basically following some of the characters in the game doing stuff. For this one, Zoro's just doing his own thing. It is mostly here just to explain what the hell he's been doing, since at multiple times in the story, he's just not here. And it's really kinda dull, mostly because of how much it doesn't do anything, and really, it's kinda just a repeat of certain ideas done beforehand. Ironically enough, I was mostly done with it and I just gave up because I just couldn't play it anymore. It was just getting that boring. I didn't even bother with the other 2 DLC with Law. Yeah, he's in the game for some reason. I'm not sure how or why, he's just here. And Sabo, who we'll get into in a moment, who gets to fight Katakuri. Wait, what? Okay, serious question. Why wasn't he in the game? I think a lot more people would be more fun with the game because Katakuri's in it. It would have been fun just to see him in it. Waste of time is all I'm saying. In fact, he's not the only strong person here. The Marines with Smoker and Tashigi are here, with Admiral Kizaru and Fujitora, who, after you fight Fujitora, you gain the ability to use Gear 4. And I used it a few times, but it doesn't really matter. Because I didn't mention one other mechanic in the game, that being Tension. Tension is something that allows you to use special moves, like Red Hawk or Conqueror's Haki. And the only reason why you'll never use them is because the game gives you the ability of Eagle Storm. Essentially, it's a hard-hitting move that can hit multiple times, meaning it made combat even more trivial. Like, you'll notice it every time I'm using it against the bosses because, well, again, it's really easy. But back on point, not only are they here, but Gamma 66 is here. Don't ask me why they're here, I'm so confused, but at least because of when the manga was being made, it wasn't revealed that Guillermo 66 was captured at this point, and Rob Lucci, yes, of that guy who's at CP0 now, is here as well. I'm not entirely sure because of the Reverie arc happening at that time in the manga, which is ironic because Sabo's here as the Revolutionary Army, which, by and large, is actually one that makes a lot of sense. There's problems on the island, and the island might want to do a revolution. However, Jean doesn't want that, because she doesn't want to see anyone hurt on the island, and thinks it's possible to talk everyone down. Which it does, but I'm kinda going to the idea of, that's really fucking dumb still. And I really do like Sabo's response to her, that he won't just leave because one person tells him to leave. There are real problems on the island, and they really need to be addressed. And I mean, like, the reason he doesn't do the revolution now is mostly because he knows there's a lot of work going here. I mean, like, with all the strong people on this island, there's gotta be a reason behind it. Which you more learn in the DLC for Sabo, but it doesn't really even matter. And this is where I want to talk about the real thing that got on my nerves. I kinda wanted more conflict between the pro and anti-Navy sides, mostly because they're just dumb, for lack of word. Essentially, my biggest problem is there's not a lot with them, and what's with them is just, oh, I don't like you, and you don't like me, fuck you. Essential arguments here, with none of the real kind of like sticking points about what's exactly wrong here. It kind of just says there's a problem between the two sides, and it's trying to do a both-sidism, when one side is just genuinely worse. And honestly, they could have done some cool world building where they kind of just explain what the Revolutionary Army does. Because as a whole, we're still not as sure what the hell they do exactly. And we just learn, oh, they do revolutionary things. It feels like it's unable to actually tap into that aspect of them because of the mystery behind them. And I'm like, if you're not going to do anything with them, why are they even here? But in any case, while trying to keep the infighting down, Luffy and Jean try to use the tower to send a message to everyone, so you have to stealth it, and... oh, wait.
Oh yeah, stealth. I'm not sure why it's here. Luffy in most cases, even in everything we've ever seen him in, he's not a very stealthy guy. He refuses stealth whenever he gets a chance. I mean, like, the whole point of a lot of his operations is that he sees the thing he wants to beat, and he goes to beat it up. That's just how he is.
After soothing some tension between both sides, Isaac explains to Jean exactly the reason why he's doing all this. He wants to get back at the world government. So, remember those pirates who killed their mother? It was actually a ploy by the world government to gain the secrets to harvesting Dynastones properly, which she didn't. And during this time when he was learning it, he was actually part of the Marines, so when he actually learned the truth, he basically wanted pure revenge. So in order to rise through the ranks of the Marines, he basically became the head researcher of Dynastones, so that way he can gain more power and influence. So when the time came where he wanted to begin his plan, he could make sure that people were here and not in his way. But in the way to do what? Essentially, his plan is to take the Sky Prison all the way to Mary Joie and blow it the hell up. For those who don't know or don't remember, Mary Joie is the home of the Celestial Dragons as well, the biggest assholes in the One Piece universe, who is home to the 5 Elder Stars, who also run the world government, and are in charge. Well, until we learned that Emu was the one in charge and we don't know who the hell that person is, but another time. And it was actually around here is when I realized something about the game plot, and it was kinda interesting. Essentially, the plot is essentially the combination of Movie Z, episode of Alabasta, and Stampede. How so? Well, Alabasta is where a princess plot happens, where Sheen is a princess, regardless of what you want to say. She's the leader of the island in some category. Also, Crocodile's here. Not sure why he's here, he's just doing his own thing. Maybe he's after the debt that Buggy has? Who's to say? And speaking of tertiary characters who don't need to be here, That's where the Stampede comparison comes in. Essentially, a bunch of characters are here who honestly don't matter and don't need to be here particularly. And finally, Z. Basically, Isaac's goal is just the same as Zephyr. Instead of just pirates, it's the Marines and the world government itself. And after a beatdown from Luffy saying like, family, whatever, he basically just stops the whole plan, basically blowing up Sky Prison away out to the side where it wouldn't hurt anybody. And the crew just leads off again, sailing to wherever they're going, as Jean promises to make the island back to its former glory. At the end of the day, World Seeker is a boring game. It doesn't do anything particularly abjectly wrong, but it doesn't do enough either to make it even worthwhile. It is a bog standard licensed game that just exists. It's not better than World Red, but World Red is better only by technicality. I know that sounds weird, but that's the best way to put it. In any case, we'll do the next One Piece game in November. But next time, we're doing a request that I've been kind of putting off for a long while. That being for Eternal Sonata. That's only because the footage got deleted. Let me tell you, not a fun revisit.